watching Agenda in one of our series of debates on demonetization on campus. Today we come to you from the Faculty of Management Studies, one of the country's top management institutes. And if you see the audience today, it's clearly divided. And that's not because we told them to. We asked them what they felt and they're completely divided. This side of, to me, all the students are those who truly support demonetization. On this side are students who have questions and doubts about this policy that's been implemented by the government. Over the next half hour, we're going to hear from the students and have them debating it themselves. We're also going to be hopefully joined by Union Minister Babul Supriyo and the Congress's Rajiv Gowda. But first, let's just look at how the government and the opposition had a fight today on the impact of it and whether cashless is truly possible. Take a look.
It's our strategy that from a high cash dominated economy, we should become a less cash economy, where the amount of paper currency will come down, it will still exist, and there will be greater digitalization. In fact, we see with a sense of satisfaction a huge movement in favor of digitization which is taking place.
Congress party supports digitization, digital transactions. But to assume that India will go from 3% cashless to 100% cashless in a matter of months or years is a completely outlandish expectation, isn't it? How will we go in completely cashless? It will take time.
So the opposition says it's the biggest scam, and the government, of course, claims it's the boldest move since independence. This side of my audience, as I said, thinks and agrees with the government that it is the boldest move. So before we hear from the other side as well and go to our panelists, I just want to hear from the students as well. Why do you all, does anyone want to step and say why you think that it is the boldest move? You want to go? Yeah.
I think so. Demonetization is a very positive move because the whole economy will shift to a more cashless society. So there would be more accountability and the tax base also of India would also increase. And as per some reports, the housing prices are also going to come down by 30% and the inflation is also going to come down. So looking at the report suggested, then it's a good move.
Anyone want to counter him over here immediately? Yeah.
It was so decently said that we shift to cashless economy. There was no attention paid to the transformation from this, cash-rich economy to cashless economy and the collateral damage that is being caused. We've already witnessed over 100 deaths, and God knows what's going to happen in the future. It's easier said than done in a country like India, where 70% of people live in rural areas, and you see all over the news what sort of problems they're facing, and there seems to be no end to it. Let's hope and let's pray that things get better for our country and for our nation, for our people, and there are no such major cases anywhere in the country.
So we're hearing over there two different points of view as well. You saw this side debate the fact that the rural economy, and that's perhaps what the opposition is focusing on as well. One of the things that Mr. Chidambaram said today is that it has broken the backs of the poor, and he couldn't see one rich person impacted. I know all of you are really supporters of this. Is there anything you wanted to say? Yeah.
See, if we actually analyze the policy of the government from the very beginning, it has been focusing on Make in India campaign. And if you see this demonetization, what it's going to do is that it's going to promote Make in India campaign. Like, because of this, many of the companies which actually specialized in digital money and all, they are actually growing. The second thing is that the black money is going to get curbed, which has actually created a parallel economy, which is very bad for as far as the ease of doing business is concerned. The third thing, I personally went to this Ajadpur Mandi, and what I saw is that whatever
you went there because you were interested in it. Yeah. Okay.
So I just analyzed it, like whatever the transactions which are going on, that goes on the paper, like, okay, 5,000 rupees, okay, this is the transaction, so none of the tax is being paid on that. So this unorganized sector forms a big part of our Indian economy, and the unorganized labor are not paid according to the government norms and regulations.
Right.
So this thing is actually going to help the unorganized sector besides improving their standard of living.
That's actually a really interesting point. Rajiv Gowda, and I know that it's great that you're the guest today from the Congress, because you, of course, have the business school background as well, being a faculty member there before you became an MP. You heard what this young student is saying, and it's something which a lot of the people supporting this move have said many times. What would you say to him about this tremendous benefit which he thinks it'll bring?
Well,
cashless is a new goalpost. And it's all fine to think that we will move towards a digital cashless economy. But if that was the aim, then the government could have taken a little more time, could have ensured that more people had access to bank accounts, that there was security in place. Right now there is no proper privacy, there is no proper security. The number of people who have access to the internet is minuscule compared to the magnitude of the people of India who should be, who need to go cashless. I mean, if you start listing out all the problems with this overnight shift to cashless economy, you will see that you're setting yourself up for another failure. If there are frauds that are conducted, then the faith in the cashless economy will also go down. You know, so this is not basically the government has come up with a very ill-conceived and horribly implemented demonetization effort. And as a result, now that they're unable to provide any results that are demonstrable in terms of tracking down black money, in terms of eliminating counterfeit money, etc., they're shifting the goalpost to a cashless economy, which is a desirable state of affairs, but for which India is not presently ready for. And for that matter, if we, in the course of time, you would have moved there. GST was coming. A lot of other transactions would be tracked anyway. So I don't see why suddenly this is going to become an overnight success. Large numbers of people will be left out. There is a gender issue. Large numbers of women will be left out of this. Large numbers of rural and poor people will be left out of this. And what are you going to do about them in this new cashless economy that everyone's starting?
I wish you were here to see. Actually, there are quite a few students over here. They appreciate what they're saying, but they have questions to counter you as well. So I'm going to let them do that. Yeah, what did you want to say?
So, sir, if you look at the first regime of UPA, the cash, the high denomination notes that were in public circulation rose to 87% of the total cash reserves of India from 37% that were there in the NDA regime. Because of this, we had to face high inflation. If you look at the property rates, they almost doubled in 2 to 3 years. If you look at the property prices and everything, the inflation rates were quite high. And the only way to curb this is to curb the black money impact. So do you think that as a policy, demonetization will do just that? Or do you think that there is something wrong with the policy itself?
Okay, before you answer that, Mr. Gowda, there's one of the students who wants to counter him as well. One second, Mr. Gowda. Yeah, what did you want to say?
As my friend at Rishikesh had suggested, I understand that, Make in India is something we have to promote and going cashless. But how much of the country can actually go cashless? Like 70% of the country actually trades on cash and, supporting the rural system. And also you mentioned going cashless. Consider the city Chennai. Now, after Baroda, do you think without the power and anything, can they go cashless? What do you do in such situations?
Yeah. Comment to that. See, India has already been suffering from acute poverty since the UPA regime also. And,
right.
and according to me, the way to handle poverty is entrepreneurship, which is very important. And the ease of doing business is one of the most important things.
Shall we let Mr. Gowda also just respond to that?
I will just add one more point.
Yeah.
Like, if we actually curb this black money and favor this demonetization and switch to digital economy, the tax base is going to increase, which is usually going to reduce the tax burden.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Gowda, you heard the question as well to you first. Would you just respond to that?
Sure. See, the issue of black money in real estate transactions, that is a result of two things. It has to do with taxes, right? It has to do with what the seller has to pay in terms of capital gains tax and what the buyer has to pay in terms of stamp duty, registration charges, etc. Both have an incentive to evade, and that's why there is a cash component to that transaction. That can be addressed by changing both the registration rate, lowering that, and by lowering tax rates. That's how you actually bring more people in to move towards white transactions. Again, in the real estate sector, you found that So basically what I'm trying to say is, just because there's black money in the real estate sector doesn't mean you've got to go out there and demonetize. There are other ways of tackling them, which are much less harmful to the overall economy and to its growth, and less devastating to millions and millions of poor people who are construction labor, others who've been driven out of, already teetering on the edge, who've been driven out of work
and the
now.
students over here as well, that we have Union Minister Babul Supriyo joining us, and he'll be taking a lot of the questions as well. This side is that side sitting next to you, they're totally for demonetization.
Okay, I would rather sit on that side.
But you're not convinced by demonetization.
No. I want to sit with them and convince them.
Yeah, okay.
They're already with me, right?
So let's hear their questions. What did you want to say?
3 years before, during the UPA rule, Supreme Court gave a statement, gave judgment that all political parties should come under RTA. Show your records, and without doing all those kind of things, without bringing any systemic changes, they didn't work.
That's actually a really good point, Babul Supriyo, that many people are saying that the real thing, if you really were serious about corruption, you would have first done those steps as well. Whereas you have a bill actually pending which requires larger sanctions, many more things before you prosecute someone corrupt.
Well, what he said is about the political parties coming under the RTI rule, right? Well, cleaning up of the system, or if I can start by saying that whether this is demonetization, whether it is remonetization, it's about recalibrating the entire economic system of the country, which has not been what we have aspired it to be, given the fact that, I'm speaking to all youngsters who would want to use plastic money in the future or are probably already using it. The question is, yes, political parties should, or theoretically speaking, should come under the ITI. But then, as you know, that entire thing has to get passed in the parliaments, as you said, several regulations.
Yeah.
We would wait to see that a good process has started. I'm sure that over a period of time, you are going to have such things coming into the system. We have started a move, and we are moving in the right direction. You agree to that? Once that happens, I'm sure this is a very pertinent question, and it has to be addressed at some point.
I know the students have lots of questions. We'll just take their questions in just a bit. I just wanted to ask you, one of the news points that's coming out today is that the BJP's government in Haryana has issued diktats to all its officers and said that you have to have one cashless transaction every week or else. Now, is that the right way to do it? Can you force someone to go cashless?
Well, there is. See, what is it that we are trying to do? People like you're saying that a lot of. I'll get into a little bit of basics for them to understand. For me to understand what I'm talking about as well. See, if you're saying that the poor laborers and the poor people are not getting paid, why they're not getting paid in cash and all of that? Why is that happening? Because their employers, they are not part of the entire revenue structure of the country. They do not pay taxes. They don't aspire to pay taxes. They do not want they only want to enjoy the infrastructure that the government is giving them without putting anything back into the system. Now, what happens is, when we do not want economists sitting in America talking about Indian demonetization while they're paying a coffee bill in Starbucks with a plastic card, because that is the way the world has gone forward. So if the Haryana government is asking the officers to lead by example and to avail credit cards and debit cards and make this system walk towards a cashless system, in India, can we really make it a cashless system? The answer is probably, at this point of time, prudently speaking, no. But should we not try to walk in that direction? The answer is a definite yes.